So you watched the Rebranding Safety COVID video, and at the end of it you were like, yeah, but that's well and good, but what does 1 metre plus mean? And do I have to maintain 2 metres? And do I need screens and one-way systems? How do I practically manage this risk? In this video, we're going to talk about our practical top tips for managing COVID when you go back to work. Let's go.
The problem in safety isn't deviation, it's complexity.
Health and safety has gone mad.
Health and safety is trying to unpick having gone mad in the past.
There's no one solution and one problem. The problem is that we are looking for one solution.
Does the structure of the team allow them to flourish?
Feel safe enough to be uncomfortable.
The environment defines our behaviours.
People aren't the problem, they're the solution.
Rebranding Safety, crushing the stereotype. Brought to you by Riskfluent. What's up everyone, welcome back to Rebranding Safety. Rebranding Safety does exactly what it says on the tin. We're here to change the perception of health and safety and to challenge health and safety gone mad. So if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and the bell so you never miss another episode. Okay, in this episode, COVID practical tips. Make sure, please make sure you checked out the previous episode we did on the YouTube channel where we talked about the management tips of coronavirus. I think it's so important that we're getting communication right, that we're getting our risk assessments and our planning right, you know, that we're going corporate level and local level, that we're being diverse and flexible in the way we approach this is so important to actually get this right and deliver not just paperwork, but actually value. So go and check that video out right now. Before we get into the tips, I want to just reiterate that the best source for information for this stuff is the COVID webpage on gov.co.uk, on the government website. It's actually really good. It's actually not too bad. You can go through these little steps to work out whether you should be going back to work. There's some clear kind of bulletproof tips and clear guidelines that you can follow on there. It's actually quite good and quite clear once you really get into the nitty gritty of it. Yeah, don't just take what you're hearing on the news and what you're hearing on Facebook. Go to the root cause of the information. Go to the source of this information and draft your processes, your policies, your way of thinking when we're going back to work off that. Okay, so please go and check that out after you've watched this video. One other quick note is about air conditioning. Air conditioning keeps coming up a few times on social media. People getting real concerned about the air conditioning kind of moving the virus around the building. And with a dilemma coming called summer, air conditioning is going to be huge. So now we're trying to balance, you know, people being comfortable at work and getting the virus and this stuff's a nightmare. However, the HSE have produced some guidance. I'll link it in the description below so you can go check that out. And essentially what it says is this stuff moving via air conditioning is extremely low. What they do advise is that if you've got like a building-wide air conditioning system that recirculates air from one room to another room or one floor to another floor, essentially from one area to another area, you want to try and turn that off. So have a chat with your air conditioning manufacturer, maintainer, whoever, and see if you can work out how your air conditioning units can be turned off from moving air from one room to the other room and have them switched over to a fresh air source. Now, for the more common air conditioning units, which are the single units for each room, then recirculation of air can't be turned off, because it's pulling them from the air and it's just recirculating the room's air anyway. However, the air just stays in that room anyway. So they go through it really well on the HSE website. It's like a one-pager. It's really simple. We'll link in the description below, but in summary, the risk is really quite low. Okay, from the 4th of July, some things have changed with coronavirus. So essentially, I'm going to list the businesses according to the government which should not open, because that is a lot easier than listing the businesses that can now open. So nightclubs and the like, disco halls, etc. remain closed. Casinos remain closed. Sexual entertainment, unfortunately, remains closed. I can't believe I even said sexual entertainment on this video. Oh my God. More normal stuff now. Bowling alleys, skating rinks, indoor soft play areas, spas, nail baths, beauty salons, spas and salons of the like, massage parlours and tattoo parlours, body and skin piercing services, indoor fitness and dance studios, indoor gyms, sports courts and facilities, indoor water parks and swimming pools, indoor events, conferencing, event halls and things like that. It's also worth noting that gatherings over 30 people is prohibited currently by the law, other than in legally defined specific circumstances. You can find those out by going to dove.uk. I'll link that website below. So finally, we can get into some practical tips about staying COVID secure. So the guidance does essentially kind of, it kind of sounds like we can all go back to work. But there are some little bits and bobs when you start breaking down the industries. So for example, if you click on the construction industry guidance on the gov.com website, it does say that the aim is for people to remain work from home where possible. So the way I kind of look at this is, if that service is essential to your business and it has to operate in outdoors or in an office or something like that, then that can go back to work with mitigations in place, mitigations of which we will approach in the rest of the video. Okay, I want you to be really critical when looking at your systems and thinking about who can go back to work. I don't want you to be like, right, everyone back to work. Let's just put in a one-way system and put in some screens, everyone go back to work. Think about what we said in the last video, talking to your staff, seeing how they feel, what ideas do they have some open Q&A, Zoom calls, you know, get some ideas from them. Who's happy work from home, who's not? A lot of the kind of shifts that we might talk about later on in the video will probably come out of just conversations with your staff. So that's where you got to start, okay? Talk to your staff. Okay, now the rest of the tips are generic tips. There is some specific industry guidance on the Gov website, and I'll keep reiterating go to the Gov website because it's actually not that bad, but you can actually click on sections of your industry. You can go to construction, offices, shops, cafes, etc., and you can get some specific guidance. This is just kind of generic tips and tricks of things that you should maybe think about. Okay, so let's get into it. This video, by the way, is like a minefield to try and get this right, because this is just huge. There's so much stuff going on here that we've never dealt with before. It's absolutely crazy, but the mitigations are reasonably simple. So finally, I want to reiterate one last time, people should work from home where possible, okay? Don't bring people back if it's not necessary. If they're doing perfectly fine, work from home, leave them at home. If they're happy working from home, leave them at home. Bear in mind that companies like Twitter have just announced we're happy with everyone carrying work from home. You know, that's a big announcement. So, 1 meter plus, what does that actually mean? 1 meter plus what? Plus 1 centimeter, plus 2 meters, plus 10 meters, plus a day, plus a year, plus mitigations. What does it mean? Plus time, plus lunch. And I'm gonna stop now. 1 meter plus. What it means is 1 meter plus mitigations. That's how I look at it. 1 meter plus something in place. Now, have a real think about this. Before coronavirus, did you actually stand 1 meter away from anyone? That's about a meter there. But I mean, really, I'm just literally, like, if I reach, that's me touching the camera. Meter's not that far away. So really, do you want to stand 1 meter, like, close to someone? I mean, I don't know. Especially not now. The guidance is still 2 meters all the time. What this means is that we can go from 1 meter within 15 minutes. So we might be able to pass someone when we've only got, you know, just over 1 meter in a width in a hallway or something like that. It does help, but we want to try and keep it 1 meter plus. So 1 meter plus a face covering, 1 meter plus a perspex guarding, a perspex barrier, sorry, between each desk. 1 meter plus people working back to back and not face to face or side to side. 1 meter plus a 15-minute limit. So we just want to look at this whiteboard. We're going to do some project work. We need to get this sorted. We need to work out how we're actually going to survive as a business through this. You stand 1 meter to me. We're going to look at the whiteboard and we're going to go boom, 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 boom. And I'm going to say, this is my whiteboard marker, that's your whiteboard marker, and we're not going to swap. Yeah, silly things like that we never really thought of before. There's kind of the whiteboard marker is now a touch point, you know. Do your staff share, you know, a construction cement trowel? There we go, trowel thing, you know, probably not best. I don't think they do. I think people bring their own, don't they? So it's 1 meter plus a mitigation, okay? But 2 meters where possible. So we still want to maintain 2 meters. One other thing to think about is getting to work. Have you got an office in the middle of a real busy metropolitan city where, you know, actually the only way you're going to get to work is via public transport, by buses or tube, for example, in London, or the tram in some other cities, or, you know, the metro, or whatever we want to call it. Any kind of public transport, is that really the only way to get in? You know, if you're working in London, you know, only nutters drive in London. Do you know what I mean? You only drive if you have to in London. Everyone gets a tube. So can you encourage people to bike to work, to walk to work? Have you got parking spaces for people to drive to work if you want to encourage that? Have you got bike storage areas? Have you got a shower? You know, you want to try and encourage stuff like that. Maybe this is the time, if you haven't got one, to take on a cycle to work scheme and encourage people to bike to work. You know, these are all good welfare things that we tried to encourage before anyway, but now we've got even more reason to kind of reinforce that message. Yeah, don't forget when you're traveling on public transport that it's mandatory now from the 15th of June to be wearing face coverings on public transport, so please make sure you're doing that. There's still people, when I was in London on Wednesday, that people are not wearing them. You know, this stuff's mandatory, and bearing in mind, you're not protecting yourself, you're protecting other people, so you're being a bit of a... Okay, so we kind of touched on this in the 1 meter plus thing, but we just want to kind of go through social distancing a bit more. So social distancing at work. One-way systems, great, you know, staggered start time, blended working, things like that. You're going to need to talk to your staff about this, yeah? You might even need to do individual cases, right? And also there's got to be a bit of give and take here. There's got to be a bit of, you know, not just management managing the stuff, but us as the doers, the workers, have got to be a bit like, we get to a door, let's just wait, let someone else go through, you go through, you know, let's be polite, let's just be sensible around this stuff, yeah? But staggered shifts, you know, keeping people at home where they don't need to come into work. Like, this is the best way to manage this stuff. If people want to work from home, please let them work from home and facilitate that, yeah? Can you operate like one-way systems in your office? Can you say, you know, if you've got 2 ways in and out of your office, so you can have this is in, that's out, you know, that's a great way to manage this stuff. If you've got some departments, for example, that can work from home and some that can't, then you could turn one department's seating area just temporarily into a larger lunch area so people can social distance while sitting in lunch. You're going to need to reconfigure your workplace. This is going to be pretty easy for an office, but it's going to be really challenging for construction sites. You know, it's going to be really challenging for some manufacturing facilities. You've got to be quite inventive here. And the only way to be inventive is talking to people, working with people, getting on the shop floor, being like, how are we going to maintain 2 meters here? How are we going to maintain 1 meter plus here? You know, face coverings, bearing in mind that when we get into summertime, face coverings is going to be real uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie, people, this is going to be a huge challenge for some industries. Things like construction, bearing in mind you're outside, so the risk is a little bit lower, but it's going to be really challenging. You know, when you're building a house or something like that, now you're inside, you know, doing the finishing touches and stuff like that. What about if you're working in someone's home? You know, that is going to be just as challenging. Things like checking with the customer if there's any symptoms or anything like that. Are they vulnerable? And if they've got either of those, you're probably just going to want to say, we're going to have to wait for a bit and we'll come back to you later. I'm really sorry. If it's emergency work, say you're an emergency plumber or something like that, then, you know, it's balancing that up. You're probably going to have to go and do the work. You know, ask the customer to stay in the living room for a little bit whilst you're running up and down the stairs, clean it on your way out, etc., etc. Wear face coverings so you're not spreading your viruses if you potentially have it through the home of your customer. So I kind of covered a lot of stuff in that little clip around social distancing because, you know, social distancing works really easy in some places, but really not. So we're going to have to go heavier on the other side. And I'm just trying to reiterate here and how we're going to have to combine multiple layers of mitigations. We're going to have to create layers of safety, essentially. Improving cleanliness and reducing touch points. Think about those industries we said that are not allowed to go back to work yet. They're highly kind of contagious areas or high levels of touch points, you know, like the gyms and swimming pools, you know, notoriously dirty places. So the virus is going to love it there, right? Or salons where we're, you know, doing our nails and things like that, and they're touching each other. Bowling alleys, you know, we're sharing balls all the time that are not getting cleaned, you know. So we are in workplaces want to try and reduce touch points. So it's interesting that in the beginning, my golf club, for example, had removed all the flags. They've put the flags back now, which is interesting, but they've removed all the flags. They've reduced touch points. Things like doors. Now here we've discussed this on the podcast with the panel around, you know, reducing touch points, clashing with fire safety and fire doors. So this might be a great time to look into having automatic hold open devices installed in your building if you want to reduce those touch points. You know, it's probably going to resolve that, oh, they're always propping doors open, etc. problem anyway. So maybe now is the time to look into investing in something like that. Things like reducing shared workstations, you know, hot desking or shared workbenches, shared tools, not going to really work in these times, and if they are, people will need to be cleaning them before they take them or before they give them away. So if you're having shared tools, for example, once you're finished with that tool, you want to be giving that a wipe down or a spray or whatever you're using. A wipe's probably going to be the easiest way to deal with that. So the next question is, do your people have those wipes? Do they have access to that stuff? You're going to need probably to provide some cleaning equipment to your employees as well. Depending on your fiscal situation, and granted that is challenging for some businesses currently, you may want to bring in a cleaner once a month, once a week, once a day, depending on the risk of you know, what kind of operations you're doing, to just come in and do a deep clean. Maybe if you just did a deep clean every 3 years, now it's time to bring it to yearly and get it done now. I'll probably advise that we do a deep clean before we get people back in. At least do that one, and then from there you can maintain going forward. And again, go and listen to the panel discussions we had, because Christian on there is an absolute cleaning genius, and you can go and listen to what he talks about. He talks about just kind of using sanitizer as essentially sanitizing the dirt that's already on the surface. You know, we've got to clean first, then sanitize, which I thought was really interesting. Can you implement gloves? There's a lot of people wearing gloves nowadays, so having gloves in the workplace might be a great way to reduce your kind of transmission of diseases. But remember that if you're wearing gloves, that doesn't replace minimizing touch points, because you're still spreading from touching one item with a glove to touching another item with a glove. So you've got to really think about this stuff. You know, if you've got gloves, they're probably going to be disposable between tasks, depends on what you're doing, or at least between areas. So you might just wear some gloves in one area and then take that glove off and throw it before you move into the next area. If you're working in people's property, you want a glove for that one property, take your glove off and chuck that in the bin at that property if you can. If not, because of environmental regulations, bag it up, tie it up, put it in the back of the van and go to the next property, boom, new pair of gloves. Okay people, this was actually a really challenging video to do. It is such a complex kind of thing going on here, and really the mitigations we're putting in place are all very similar. You know, reducing touch points, wearing gloves, cleaning our hands, cleaning work surfaces, not sharing workstations, not hot desking, creating one-way systems, social distancing where we can, trying to maintain 1 meter plus mitigations. You know, all of this stuff is very similar across all industries. The problem is the dynamics of every industry is really, really different. You know, going and fixing someone's boiler in a house is completely different from building a house on a construction site, which is completely different to a manufacturing unit, which is completely different to an office. And some businesses might have all of the above in their one business. Some businesses might have a manufacturing factory which has an office as well. So we've got a lot to think about here, and the only way that I think we do this is collaborating with our workers. And if we can collaborate beyond that with our colleagues and our competition maybe, and work together to deal with this virus, then I massively advise you do something like that. Go and check out our management video, because I really do think some of the things we talk about in there around communication and engagement and being dynamic in our approaches with risk assessment are really, really, really important. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, hit the like button, comment below some of the tips that you're doing to manage this risk. You know, let's work together. If you put in comments below being like, oh, we did this, that's great. James, you didn't mention this, even better, because the only way we help each other is by helping each other and sharing our ideas and stuff like that. And I think the safety community is really good at that, and I think the business community is even better at that. So no matter who you are, whether you're a doer on the shop floor or you're a health and safety professional or you're a business senior leader and you've got an idea, even if I've mentioned it, put it down below. Be like, yeah, James, I know you mentioned one-way systems. This is how we implemented a one-way system in our office. All of that stuff helps. So please, please, please put comments below. This help each other out. If you enjoyed this video and you think, oh, I love James's stuff, I love James's style, and I really want to help him grow and I want to help him feed his children, we have some merch available. I'm buzzing to say that. We've actually got some merch available. Please go and have a look. Even if you just have a look, don't buy anything, I'm cool with that. We tried to keep the prices as reasonable as possible. So, you know, profit margin's pretty low. So if you could go and buy as much as possible, that would be amazing as well. But to be honest, I just would love it if you get to merch because it's really cool. You can get sweatshirts, t-shirts, mugs and tote bags. So go have a look, get yourself a mug, get yourself a sweatshirt. This is terrible. First merch advert and I'm like completely screwing it. Please go check out our merch. It's really good. The sweatshirts are awesome. They're my favorite. The t-shirts are my second favorite. And I really like the tote bags as well. They're definitely cool for conferences, but shame we don't really have any conferences right now. That's not good, is it? So yeah, go check that out. You can purchase it. We'll send the order over to our manufacturer people, who's a lovely lady that runs a business called Dribble Kids. You can go check them out as well. Shout out to Emma. She's doing some amazing work. And please, yeah, go buy some merch. Cool. Anyway, sorry I waffled there, I'm really excited. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next video. Safe. And the safe thing, that's where we, you know, that's the thing we do on the merch. Safe. Cool. Catch you later. Bye.